Your dog is in the living room. You stand up. You don't say anything. You don't call them. You simply move toward the hallway, and before you have fully left the space, they are already rising. By the time you reach the bathroom, they are at the door, silent, watching, not asking for anything. Just there. Most people see this and feel something warm. They call it loyalty. They call it love. They tell their friends their dog follows them everywhere, and they smile when they say it. That interpretation is emotionally satisfying. It is also missing something important, because what you're watching is not primarily affection. It is a monitoring system running exactly as it was trained to run. Here is what owners almost universally believe: the dog follows because the bond is strong, because it wants to be near you, because proximity is how dogs express devotion. That framing isn't wrong, but it is incomplete in a way that carries real consequences. In attachment science, the behavior that most reliably distinguishes a secure bond from an insecure one is not closeness. It is the ability to tolerate distance. A securely attached individual, human or dog, can sit in a separate room, feel fine, and not need to know where their attachment figure is at every moment. The dog that cannot let you move to the kitchen without following is not showing you the depth of its bond. It is showing you the fragility of its internal security model. Research from the University of Padova, examining canine attachment styles, found that dogs exhibiting consistent proximity maintenance without vocalization showed significantly higher baseline cortisol levels and substantially lower scores on independent exploratory behavior compared to dogs with secure attachment profiles. The nervous system is not neutral here. Distance is registering as threat. Now here is where the behavior becomes genuinely interesting, and where most owners make the critical observational error. They hear their dog following quietly and think, calm, settled, devoted. The clinical reading is the opposite. The quieter the following behavior, the higher the underlying anxiety load. Dogs with moderate attachment concerns vocalize, they whine, they bark, they solicit your return. Dogs with deeply embedded hyperattachment have moved past solicitation into what behavioral medicine calls pure surveillance mode. They tried vocalizing. It didn't reliably prevent you from leaving. So the nervous system adapted. It stopped expressing the anxiety and started managing it through proximity monitoring instead. The silence that owners find endearing is not contentment. It is the nervous system's learned response to a problem it has been unable to solve any other way. The conditioning pathway that creates this behavior is built through ordinary daily repetition. Early in the relationship, every time you leave and return, your dog experiences a small neurochemical relief event. Cortisol drops. Oxytocin activates. Your return is biochemically rewarding. Over hundreds of repetitions, something subtle shifts. The nervous system stops waiting for the departure to feel the anxiety and starts generating it at the first cue of movement. You stand up. That standing is now a reliable predictor of temporary disappearance. The following behavior is the dog's attempt to compress the gap between that cue and the next relief event. It is not following toward you. It is following away from the anxiety that your movement creates. Topal and colleagues at Budapest Ethology Lab, applying Bowlby's attachment theory to companion animals, identified two functions. A healthy attachment figure serves, a safe haven the organism returns to under threat, and a secure base from which it explores independently. In hyperattached dogs, the secure base function has collapsed. The owner operates only a safe haven, meaning all regulation, all stability requires physical presence. The dog has not built an internal representation of you that can function when you're not in the room. It needs you physically present because the psychological presence was never constructed. If you want to see the distinction between secure and hyperattached clearly, the behavioral markers are precise. A securely attached dog follows occasionally, settles comfortably in another room, engages with its environment when you're stationary, and shows mild greeting behavior when you return. A hyperattached dog follows every movement, cannot rest beyond a threshold distance from you, loses interest in the environment when you sit still, and responds to your return, even from the next room, with a disproportionate reunion display. Both dogs love their owners. Only one of them is neurologically stable enough to tolerate that love from across a hallway. There is a second common misconception worth addressing directly, that the appropriate response to this behavior is reassurance. Many owners, noticing what looks like anxiety, call out across rooms. They return to check. They allow full contact sleep arrangements because the dog seems more settled that way. Each of these responses does something the owner doesn't intend. It teaches the dog that proximity is the only available cortisol regulation mechanism. The anxiety window for separation narrows. and each uninterrupted following episode deepens the neural pathway between your movement and your dog's activation, making the eventual separation, whether that's a workday, a vet visit, an overnight stay, more neurologically destabilizing than it needed to be. Research by Nagasawa and colleagues on the oxytocin gaze loop and proximity-triggered bonding chemistry confirms that physical closeness with an attachment figure genuinely does regulate cortisol suppression in dogs. The problem in hyperattached dogs is that this system has become dysregulated. The animal requires continuous proximity input to maintain hormonal baseline. Remove the proximity and the HPA stress axis activates almost immediately. The dog isn't choosing to follow in any deliberate sense. Its autonomic nervous system is choosing for it. Correcting this is not a matter of spending less time with your dog. It is a matter of building what the dog currently lacks, an internal secure base. This is done in structured phases. First, micro-separations, 15 to 30 seconds, owner within visual range but not contact proximity, where the dog must settle before you return. Return is contingent on calm, not on anxiety expression. This decouples the association between distance and threat. Second, departure cue desensitization. Identify the specific movements that initiate following, standing up, walking toward a door, and repeat them without actual departure, so the cue loses its predictive power. Third, structured independence windows daily, where the dog occupies a defined space without you, engaged with a long-duration chew or puzzle feeder that activates the seeking system independently. The goal is to give the dog's nervous system an experience it has never had, distance from you, and nothing bad happened. What you're watching when your dog appears silently in every doorway is not a love story. It is a dependency story, and the difference is not trivial. A dog that can only feel safe when you are in the room has not formed a deep bond. It has formed an incomplete one, a bond without the internal architecture to survive distance. The most meaningful thing you can build is not a dog that needs to follow you everywhere. It is a dog that chooses to because it is secure enough to also choose not to. Stand up right now, walk to another room without calling your dog. Count the seconds before it appears in the doorway. Drop the number in the comments. Under 10 seconds tells you something worth knowing. And if you want to understand the next layer of this, why your dog watches you while you sleep, what the overnight monitoring behavior actually means, that's the next video.